Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. If you are a developer working with IoT sensors, financial data, or application map, you know that time series data is an absolute beast to manage. First, getting the data, storing it efficiently, and querying it fast. We all need that, right? But that's always a dream, right? For years, InfluxDB has been a go-to solution. But InfluxDB today is not the same database what it was few years ago. We have a version 3. So in this video, we are just going to figure it out how InfluxDB has evolved from version 1 to the game-changing version, which is currently a version 3. And we will see how it has evolved. And most importantly, answer the big question, what does this mean for you as a developer? And why is version 3 something you should not ignore? And you should try to upgrade if you are really having some limitations and the problem with the previous version, which I'm gonna explain. So as you can see on my screen, right, this is the version V1, right? If you have been using InfluxDB V1, we know that, it's bundled together with 4 major components, which we call a tick, where T stands for telegraph, which is actually for a kind of an agent, which actually collect the metrics in the data points. I is in InfluxDB, which is a storage layer where we actually stores the data. Then we have a chronograph, which is actually being utilized for visualizing the data. And at the last, the K capacitor, which we call it as a just doing the data processing and just setting on the data. But what was the limitation? What kind of problem we were facing with V1, right? Operational complexity. And we know that all these components, we have to just, manage them on premise. I mean, and we know that since cloud came in the picture, we are always wanted to have that cloud kind of, setup so that we don't have to, juggle with a lot of, our own infrastructure. And that is where the V1 has a problem for all these components, right? Then again, scalability, right? The scalability again in cloud, it's very easy where, to have the horizontal scaling, it was only available on the enterprise level feature. The next one is InfluxQL, right? It was very powerful just to extract the data, but when it comes to do the advanced analytic, it was not there, right? So these were some major limitations which I observed and I experienced, and maybe your experience and your observation could be a little different. So that's okay, right? Because everybody has their own use case to use all these functions. Now, that is where the Influx V2 comes into the picture, where what they have done, they have just consolidated all those 4 components. And the another good thing is we got that Docker also evolved at that point of time. So we got the Docker based, setup as well, which actually, try to handle a lot of limitation which we were having. Right. So what they have done, they have just unified all the component into the single platform, right, which they call as the InfluxDB2. I mean, you can watch my videos where I have covered InfluxDB V1 and V2 as well, if you know. So in V2, what they have done, they have just unified a binary, basically the entire solution. If you just see, it was written in Go. So all tech functionality combined into the one application, and they just call it as a one single platform. And then it has a new language, which is an expression language, in my opinion. They call it as a flux language, where you can write the expressions to just get the data from the previous function, feed directly to the next function. It is kind of a functional programming syntax, where the influx language was very, very powerful in just having a lot of advanced analytics related stuff which you want to do. The another thing which they have done is they have just introduced this bucket wherein you can create your measurement, and then you can just isolate your data depending upon what kind of isolation you want. So within an organization, you can create bucket. Inside the buckets, you can have all kind of entities which we want to have. Now, what was the limitation? Based on my experience and observation, learning a flux, it's not very easy, right? And it's another thing which you have to learn. Cardinality concern, that was the another thing which has been there in a time series database, right? So the next thing is the storage cost, right? Since everything is being stored in your your own infrastructure, so those SSDs are very, very costly, because the data we are getting in a time series world is too high, it's too much to accommodate, right? So you have to spend a lot of time to just keep increasing your storage. right? Again, these limitation can be different for you. And that is where this V3 came into the picture, which is a completely a cloud native solution. And there are a lot of architectural changes which, InfluxDB has put together. And I really love that, because this is currently a trend where we have to decouple our compute and the storage, which was not the case with the V1 and V2. And in this new world where we have lake houses, like they are also having this decoupling of the compute and the storage, like Spark and all those kind of, right? So there are a lot of inclination toward having this kind of architecture. They are calling as a diskless architecture as well, because you don't have to rely on your own storage. You can just put your data onto the cloud, and currently they are supporting AWS, Azure, and GCP. So as you mentioned, decoupled storage means you can just put your object or your storage onto the AWS, and then your compute engine, which you're gonna set up with your V3, you can just run on your local. The another major thing which they have done is they use a Rust, which is providing a very high performance as compared to Go. Then they have used a FAD, which is FADP. So basically, what does it mean? F stands for Apache Aerofly, which is a Apache, the one of the open source component which provide a high speed protocol for transferring the data. Then we have a Arrow, which is actually a ultra fast in memory processing. Again, we need that. Then we have a data fusion, which actually a very powerful SQL engine through which it processes the data. And this Parquet format, which is getting a lot of popularity among the data analytics when it comes to store the semi-structured and unstructured data. And this also provides the major feature which I was also looking to have in InfluxDB, to write a SQL query kind of stuff through which you can expand the data, which is very, very important feature in my opinion, along with decoupling the compute and the storage to have an InfluxDB V3. So I am really fascinated about V3, and I'm also trying to just create a YouTube tutorial where I will be just trying to see how we can set that up. You can also look into this website where they have said InfluxDB Core and Enterprise. There are two versions. The Core is one where you can just set up locally. It's an open source one. Enterprise is one where we have a lot of production like requirements. So if you are just playing with it, I think InfluxDB Core would be good enough, and that is what I will be using to build my YouTube tutorials. Right. The next thing, which is a very important thing, and that is where I want to spend some time with you guys, and I feel free to just provide your observation, experience, and comment on us, your feedback around V1, V2, whatever you have used so far, what kind of problem and the limitation you are using, and just try to see V3, the newer architecture, can help you to overcome with those limitations. The very interesting and the important part, in my opinion, this is the most important part, because we have to understand why we need to update to one, right? What would be there for us, right? So this is what I try to understand, like, I mean, what kind of problem with your current InfluxDB version you have? Are you struggling with the high storage cost? If yes, then you should at least give it a try to V3, because it is going to use the object storage, which is very, very less expensive. If you have used the S3 bucket storage, you know that, and it's it's not a costly affair. You can just put large files in a Parquet format, which is actually an object storage. You can easily upload to AWS S3 bucket or Azure Below storage or Google Cloud BigQuery as well. Right. The next thing is, are you hitting, the performance limitation due to the high cardinality? If there are high cardinality, which we know in a time series database, which is highly there, so you have to just try if V3 can solve that problem, right? So you can get that data into the V3 as well as in your previous version, and you can quickly compare, because it's very easy. And I would also try to just do a small video on that, where I can show you how, the performance is being increased in the V3, right? The next one is, want your whole team to be productive without learning a new language. So for example, if you have a V2 and if new members come, he has to understand Flux. And V3 has actually having a support like SQL. So you can write a SQL kind of query, which most of the folks are already familiar with. So you can have your team more productive now, because they don't have to learn a new language, which we have to do now in InfluxDB version 2. The next one is need to integrate with the modern data tools like Power BI or Spark. That is the very important thing because now we are saving a data into the Parquet format, and most of the tools, which are in this area, for example, Microsoft Fabric, Databricks, Snowflake, all these kind of things which actually provide the data for Power BI or Tableau kind of thing or the PySpark, this is where it is going to shine a lot, right? So V3 is actually making sure that you can use all the latest tools in the technology which is actually needed, in your day-to-day work, especially in the AI advancement which is happening almost on a daily basis. Right. Last but not least, if you are starting a new project and want to build a future-proof foundation with a cloud-native solution, then definitely V3 is the right choice if you have an inclination to use InfluxDB, right? So that is what the most important part. You can also share what you think could be the another checklist or the item which you would like to discuss with your team before you actually opt for the V3 version, right? So the final conclusion is this is the last part of this video. From a specialized toolkit V1 which is stick to a simplified platform V2 to hyper performant open and scalable cloud native database V3. So InfluxDB has continuously evolving. So every product trying to do that. So V3 is a culmination of this journey, solving the core challenges of the scale, cost, and the complexity for the modern developer, right? But this is just a theory, but I would suggest try to set up a V3 by yourself. And if you have a V1 or V2, you can always compare on all these aspects and see whether your limitation is being handled by the V3 version or not. I'm also trying to just assess that and trying to just build my end-to-end tutorial on a V3 version as well by using a code. So if you have if you need a more detailed information about technical architecture and all those kind of stuff, you can always read through this document, which is very comprehensive, and you can understand what it is offering you, right? So that's it from my side for this particular video. If you have any feedback or suggestion, please feel free to put that in the comment section. And if you really like this video, give a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed for my channel, please subscribe for my channel as well. Thanks for watching this, and as always, stay healthy and keep learning new things.